Hello colleagues. As you probably already know, this week's news was Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos confirmed on Thursday that the company would begin testing an ad-supported, lower-price subscription tier. In one of the previous videos, where we evaluated the business models of large companies, it was traced that this business model is present to a greater or lesser extent in all IT businesses. Therefore, one should not be surprised by such news. At the same time, you need to understand why Netflix is launching such a business model. The reason is simple. Some people are unable to pay for a Netflix subscription. What do such people do? In my mind, they go to pirate sites where they can watch interesting movies without any problems. In return they only need to watch a few ads. The poorer the standard of living in the country, the more people go to pirate sites. Ukraine, for example, has its own streaming television services, but most people watch movies on pirate sites. There was even a time when I sinned like that. Therefore, for any service with a paid subscription, it is quite a logical and correct step to add an advertising model for using the service. The advertising model solves several problems. Firstly, the user remains within the service and satisfies his need within the service, so there is the possibility of communication and interaction with this user. And secondly, the service earns money that it could not earn. Yes, in this way the service begins to compete with itself, but here, apparently, it already depends on the implementation of the advertising model. Today, I will allow myself to think a little about what services would be if they had an advertising business model. If you think that with such reflections we can invent some new service, then you are mistaken. Any analog of a subscription service most likely has an analog with an advertising business model, it's just that you don't see it. Why don't all services add this business model to themselves? Probably because the analogs have not yet gained a critical mass that would push for changes. So, for example, Telegram Messenger is also headed for monetization. Not so long ago, they started showing ads in some groups. Now they are also launching a subscription business model. What would Shopify look like? This is the simplest. To do this, it is enough to imagine any site on Shopify, which would automatically insert Google AdSense ads when the paid version of the tariff is not paid. The closest such example is the Wix platform. They do show their ads when the paid plan is disabled. At the same time, Wix does this very gently, which allows some businesses to exist even on free tariffs. For example, here are two sites for sale on Flippa.com for several $1,000s. In general, there is a clear flaw on the part of online website builders, to not add an advertising business model. Definitely, I will remember this video later when its leaders will change the market here too. How would an advertising business model for CRM systems work? HubSpot or Salesforce is up to you. Most likely, when sending SMS messages, when sending messages to instant messengers, or messages by email, a small advertising line will be added around the industry in which the business operates. In general, the task of such free tariffs is to return the client to a paid subscription to the service. Or, take, for example, a very conservative area, accounting. For example, the QuickBooks program. It would seem, how and where can there be advertising? But do not forget that accounting is a workflow, and where the workflow is not strict, you can add advertising messages to any print templates. Oh, I can't wait until after watching or listening to ads we can use public utilities. Came from the street, turned on the tap with water, and hear an advertisement for soap from the tap. Why not? Subscription and advertising business models will constantly go side by side. On this contradiction, alternative analogs of many popular services will be born. Yes, what can we say, even an ordinary Wi-Fi is often tried to be monetized with an advertising model. For Netflix, this is probably a new strategy for the globalization of the company. I can also admit that this tariff plan will not be in all countries. Conclusions. If you have a subscription business model, consider adding advertising, and vice versa. Peace.